Hello, BookTube. I went back to the Brattle bookshop early this morning in order to browse to my heart's content. The Brattle bookshop, for those of you who are new, is a used bookstore in downtown Boston. It's fantastic, a great place full of constantly changing stock, and with a huge sale lot right next door that has, instead of the usual barrow or two of outdoor books, it has thousands of outdoor books for $1, $3, or $5. So it's possible to go to the Brattle with very little money in your pocket and still get a tote bag full of books, which is exactly what I did today. Also had some great chats and got to listen. I always eavesdrop on the customers just for the fun of it. Usually that's a lot of fun, especially out in the sale lot where people are just mesmerized by how many books there are and are constantly making promises like, I'll join you inside in just a minute, when you know perfectly well they're going to be out there for another half hour. Although this morning I did overhear something that I didn't like. That struck me as so weird, almost surreal. I was just browsing the books when a family showed up. What they were doing at the Brattle bookshop first thing in the morning, I have no idea. But one of the kids were mesmerized by the books. And one of the little kids walked up to her father and said, "Can I get a book?" And he said, "Nope." And he just kept browsing for a few minutes, and then the whole family trooped off. I thought once again how ill-equipped I am to be a parent of human children. I would do cartwheels if a child of mine came up to me and said, "Can I get a book?" I'd say, "Why one? Let's get you as many as we can carry." But I did not show displeasure. I just kept a poker face and kept right on browsing. And the rest of the visit to downtown Boston, parts of it were really, really good. I met a very old golden retriever that a woman was walking right down in the business section, and he was just the sweetest thing. Very old, just sort of lumbering along, happy to meet anybody, happy to meet me. That was a wonderful, wonderful meeting. And also this morning, just in general this morning, I had access for the first time in a long time to, my reflexive phrase on this channel is muscular teenager, because for a long time I did have access to a cadre of actual muscular teenagers, of young boys who were, young men who were active weightlifters. I knew one of them, and through him I knew all the others. We became friends. And it was very useful because they were always there to carry things, to carry anything that I accumulated. And then COVID sort of threw a spanner in that, and that stopped. But during some of the appointments that I had first thing this morning, I came in contact with a doctor who had his own young person with him and was itching to get rid of him. He's underfoot was the phrase I heard. Can you think of anything to do? Is there anything you need him to do? Any errands you need him to run? I said yes. I had a little carrying in mind, carrying of books in mind. And that was great. That was great fun. So I met somebody and also didn't have to lug these books. And that's good, because this was a heavy load of books, all hardcovers. And we'll start with two mystery-related items. The Brattle recently, about a month ago, got a huge mystery library, gigantic. A huge number of mass market paperbacks, but also a huge number of hardcovers with plastic library dust jackets, obviously from the same person's collection, quite a few of them signed. I don't know if it was maybe a library that divested themselves of their contemporary mystery section. Well, that's what they were. They weren't anything old or unusual. They were just hundreds and hundreds of hardcover mystery volumes. With the plastic dust jackets, some of them signed, obviously coming from the same collector. And I glanced at them, but I thought, I don't want, most of them are not, most of them are the type of quasi-police procedural, modern mystery novels that just don't appeal to me all that much. I glanced at those. They take up wall after wall of space in the sale lot. So I have glanced at them from time to time, but never really, there's so many of them, I never really bore down and studied each spine for what was there. And today, I kind of sort of did that. I figured, do that once. That collection of mystery novels out in the sale lot is not changing. My estimation is that it's going to stay on the $5 wall for a few more days, then move to $3, then move to $1, and I don't think I think it's been picked over as much as it's going to be picked over. I don't hold out hope for those books surviving the dumpster. But I thought, as long as this is here, there's a chance. It doesn't feel like there's anything here that you want. But as long as these things are here, as long as you've got the time and you're here, you might as well scour them and see if there's anything that you want. And I found 2 things that I did want. And the first one is, I don't know if I've shown a copy of this on this channel or not. I love this author, and I love this book. Now I have it in a beautiful hardcover that was somebody's mail haul. This is Bloody Murder by Julian Simmons. And the reason I say this is somebody's mail haul is because it has a sheet in it from Viking. This is a review copy sent from Viking. And when I opened it to the spot where the review copy sheet was, I saw one of the reasons why I love this book so much. It's all about murder mystery novels. It's not a collection of stories. It's Julian Simmons analyzing the murder mystery genre and its change over time. And he gets to the point of discussing Cornell Woolrich, who's lionized and anthologized and well-liked, and this is the kind of thing that you get all throughout this book. Cornell George Hopley Woolrich, who wrote as Cornell Woolrich, is at present a cult figure in America. Quote, one of the greatest suspense writers in the history of crime fiction, as one enthusiast mistakenly puts it. Woolrich wrote for Black Mask and many other magazines, but his work was only loosely associated with that of more typical pulp writers. His best writing is in the novels he produced at great speed in the early 40s, including The Bride Wore Black. But the melodramatic silliness and sensationalism of many of his plots, and the continuous high-pitched whine of his prose, seen at its worst in the collection of stories Nightwebs, precludes him from serious consideration. So I was happy to have this. I don't remember if I found a hardcover earlier, or maybe I just found a trade paperback, but one way or another, everything in the sale lot is dirt cheap, so I wasn't going to pass this up. And the only other thing I found from all those hundreds of books, is legal fiction. It's not really mystery. It's not really a mystery novel. But I had it once upon a time, eons ago, and loved it. I also had the book that comes before it. Oh, Frida's doing her yoga. Are you going to get down, baby? There you go. And I have no idea where that copy that I had eons ago went to. Of course I don't. I found it again, and it was like meeting an old friend. This is by Charles Sevilla, and it's Wilkes on Trial. And the book before it is Wilkes, his Life and Crimes. Yeah, his Life and Crimes, which I don't have and have never actually seen with my own eyes. My old copy of this thing, I loved. I read it. It's legal courtroom hijinks of a high degree of well-controlled comedy. And I read my original copy. No idea where it is. It's probably at the bottom of the Mississippi River. I would guess it's in a box at the bottom of the Mississippi River. But I remember at the time loving it, rereading it, and also wishing that I would someday find Wilkes' His Life and Crimes. Wilkes' His Life and Crimes, as far as I could tell, was not at the Brattle today. But I did find this. So that's great. That'll be well worth a reread. Then we move to history. Lots and lots of history. We'll start with World War II. I found this great Megillah, which I've had many, many times, Pearl Harbor, the Verdict of History. And this is by the same guy that wrote At Dawn We Slept, a classic account of Pearl Harbor. And this is sort of a sequel to that, where the author and his co-researchers really dig into, I mean, At Dawn We Slept was more of a narrative history. Here the authors really dig into deep considerations of certain issues involved with Pearl Harbor, including assessing blame. And I loved it. The other day I was looking at my World War II shelves and realized I didn't have this. So I will reinforce this. I'll probably reread a chunk of it, and it'll go right on the shelf next to At Dawn We Slept. Very glad to find it, especially since all these things were dirt cheap. Then we have World War I. A blast of World War I. The gods were listening, a little bit late, but still they were listening to a desire to beef up my World War I section. For instance, I found this, Nick Lloyd's book on Passchendaele. There we have troops walking across oceans of mud in a no-man's land of battered, denuded trees. The gigantic bombardment that happened for days on end. at the beginning of the major battle of Passchendaele, broke the water control systems of the whole area, so that everything was flooded. It was just the stories involved here are amazing. I remember reading this book and liking it. This, I think, came out before we were talking to each other. Oh no, this came out in 2017. This came out in 2017, so I probably hauled this on this channel and then got rid of it. Reviewed it and then got rid of it. I found it again at the Brattle. It's a little bit worse for wear, but I'll clean it up. All kinds of muck can be cleaned up. Then another World War I book. This is by a great World War I historian. This is The War That Ended Peace by Margaret Macmillan, who's just fantastic. And this is one of the favorite angles of World War I that historians always use is to write about the lead-up to World War I. Hugh Strachan does it for 1,200 pages in his book, Two Arms. Barbara Tuchman famously does it in The Proud Tower and most of the Guns of August. And many other authors have done the same, where they look at the world that World War I completely ended. And this is another book along the same lines, but it's so powerful and eloquent. This author is just such a powerful writer that and the minute I saw it, I realized again that I didn't have it. Again, I probably hauled this while we have known each other. Let's see. 2013. So no, this was before we were talking, but I certainly got a copy of this in the mail. I'm sure that I did. And God knows where it went, but it's gone. Now I have it back. These will go in a little World War I section. Of course, when you're talking about World War I, one of the enduring odd little classics of literature about it is Paul Fussell's The Great War in Modern Memory, which is not really about the war so much as it is about how the war was perceived, how it was remembered in literature, and also pop culture. And I, like everybody else, have had, I'm sure that you know the trade paperback that I'm talking about with the absolutely desolate looking soldier just front and center on the cover. I've had that trade paperback 80 million times. I've had it as a text in classes. I've given it away a million times. But I knew I didn't have any copy of it now. When I was looking somewhat angrily at my denuded World War I section, I was thinking, okay, well, you don't have Paul Fussell's book either. And I thought at the time, well, you know, I want it, definitely. But I remember there being an illustrated version. This is a work that really repays that, because it's all about the plastic arts. And I found it today at the Brattle. I found The Great War in Modern Memory, only this is elaborately illustrated, just with period artwork and photographs all throughout, just everywhere. Just crush the Germans. Just everywhere throughout this thing. So that's fantastic. This is exactly the version of it that I want. And I found it today, so that's fantastic. Then next book, not technically World War I, but we have seen it on this channel. This is from Princeton University Press, and they issued it, and then they came out with a paperback, and I got the paperback in the mail. I'm pretty sure I hauled it on this channel, and I had it for a long time. It is, in my opinion, in the English language, one of the greatest histories of the Weimar Republic. This is Weimar Germany by Eric Wietz, and this is a hardcover. I had the trade paperback, and I still do. I have the trade paperback over on the shelf there because this is terrific reading and feels very definitive. But I don't need the trade paperback if I have the hardcover. And the reason that I got the hardcover, even though it is a duplication, is because our old friend, the Yankee Clipper, has returned. This is the previous owner of the book, clipping out enormous amounts of stuff, not just reviews of this book, although there are plenty of those, but also anything else that touches on Weimar Germany. Any other thing that does, even if it's not a review of the book, that took a lot of care, and I love it. Absolutely, there's nothing like this to give this kind of personality to my trade paperback. And so now, for a while anyway, until I'm sure they're all gone, when I go to the Brattle, I am looking for the Yankee Clipper. And I'm glad that I relatively quickly realized that I should also look at copies of books that I already own, because I will gladly swap out the copies that I have for the copies that have been so lovingly stocked as the ones the Yankee Clipper had, where he was pulling out stuff from all over folding it and dating it neatly, and putting it in the book that is on that subject. I do the same thing with my own books. So if I were to find a Yankee Clipper book that I already have, I'll get it anyway, since it's dirt cheap, and merge the two. I'll put my clippings and the Yankee Clippers in, whichever copy of the book is in better condition. Same thing with this next one. This is Jeremy Wilson's authorized biography of Lawrence of Arabia. Great, big thing. I am, we're getting back to World War I. I am a big fan of Lawrence of Arabia. I find him utterly fascinating. And this is the same thing. The Yankee Clipper put all sorts of clippings all throughout this book. I don't know that I have a copy of this. I think I sent it away to one of you. I have a number of Lawrence of Arabia biographies, but I think I got rid of this one. After I did it, it showed up in a couple of biography shelf tours, at which point I said my controversial opinion, which is that I have a sweet spot for authorized biographies, even though the literary criticism world, the book chat world, tends to scorn them. It tends to say, well, if it's authorized, then it must be whitewashed. I've often found that that's not the case. And I find it a little bit self-serving that so many critics just assume that on the part of the executors of these literary estates, that when they wouldn't assume it on their own part. If you went to one, if anybody ever bothered, if anybody ever wanted to write a review of an authorized biography of a New York Times book critic, if you went to him and said, well, I want access to all of your papers, and I understand that one of your conditions will be that I always make you look good, that critic knows themselves that they would say, don't be ridiculous. I won't even pay attention. Let the chips fall where they may. I'm not afraid of the judgment of history. I always find it a little bit self-serving that they will unhesitatingly assume that attitude themselves, but never assume it on the part of much greater people. I'm not 100% sure that the Queen Mother or Lawrence of Arabia or D.H. Lawrence or Robert Graves is going to have a different answer to that question. I'm not 100% sure that they're going to say, oh yeah, I'll be right over your shoulder. I'm not, of course, saying that authorized biographies are always the soul of truth. Certainly the horror stories about how some of them are stage managed behind the scenes are absolutely true. But I found a great deal of honesty in a lot of them, and I love Jeremy Wilson's biography of Lawrence of Arabia. Just love it. And now I'll have to check to see if I have a copy, but if I don't, now I have the Yankee Clippers volume, and that feels wonderful. I have all of his clippings, and I will just continue to add clippings to it. Then we have two larger format books to wrap things up here. And the first one is just a by-the-numbers, oversized, heavily illustrated history of Rome. This is by Nathaniel Harris. I don't think I've ever seen this before, A History of Rome. And it's just what you'd expect. There's, Hadrian's Wall and various carvings and whatnot. Ordinarily, this is the type of thing that I would smile at the Brattle, but never in a million years think about getting. Not in a million years. However, the Yankee Clipper filled this with stuff. Just filled it. I'm not sure on camera that I can... That's a clipping from National Geographic. I'm not sure on camera that I can really do justice to how much stuff is in here. It's all throughout the volume, and it's not just about this volume, obviously, because nobody would review this one. Instead, it's everything that he ever got on ancient Rome. All in this one book. And it was so cheap. I will of course, read through it and look at the pictures and whatnot. I doubt that I will keep this. I think what I'll do instead is, the idea that passed through my head when I held it in my hand at the Brattle early this morning was to take all of that stuff out of there. Save it, definitely. I'll put it in another book about Rome. I just won't put it in this one. That's all. I don't need it in this one. But I don't want the Yankee Clipper's efforts to go for nothing. And I have a suspicion, just from what I've learned about this person from his other clippings and the other books that he has filled, I have a feeling that he chose this book not because he thought it was brilliant, but because he had a lot of clippings and it was big. I have a feeling that I will not be upsetting his ghost if I move those clippings to another book on ancient Rome. I have a couple of ideal candidates. And then the last thing that we'll do here is from DK Books, Dorian Kindersley, right here in Boston. They are great for visuals. They are amazing for their visual productions. And I saw this thing. It's oversized. I ordinarily try to avoid oversized books at the Brattle because I end up inevitably getting rid of them. And I couldn't resist this thing because at first I was thinking, well, it makes a perfect thing to pop in a box and send up to Vermont to Mark Richardson of Richardson Reads. And then the more I was looking through it, the more I thought, Mark who? Richardson what? It's Dorian Kindersley cross-section of a man of war. This is, I don't know if you've ever seen one of these things. I'm not sure that DK makes them anymore. But what it is you get British man of wars. There they are coming straight towards you, throwing up moderate bow waves. But then you get a breakdown of where everything is and what all the parts are. There are the seamen swimming in a shipped sail to protect them from sharks. The book does not mention what is often mentioned in Patrick O'Brian's Aubrey and Maturin series, which is that most British seamen didn't know how to swim, considered it unlucky to know how to swim, because that meant you were tempting fate that your ship would make it necessary for you to swim. So most of them didn't know how to swim anyway. They needed that thing because otherwise they would drown. It wasn't just sharks. Although sharks followed these ships like shadows, because these ships left a wide trail of offal and detritus and the stuff that sharks can eat. So in the shadow underneath the ship, you could always find big sharks. So it would have been, despite what's often portrayed in the Aubrey and Maturin novels, it would have been lunacy to jump off a ship and go swimming. Because the sharks that live underneath the ship would have thought, okay, garbage has just been dumped, and they would have just dived right into it. You'd have been dead in seconds. And in fairness to Patrick O'Brian, that does actually happen in one of his books. but here we have, look at that. Look at the detail there. Just look at that. This takes you through every single aspect. Here's working at sea. Where are the pumps? Where are the casks for food? Where are the cable tiers? Where are the rows? Where are the rows of oars? All that sort of stuff is in there in just mind-boggling detail. This will probably still make its way up to Vermont, but first I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. I'm going to examine it first. I am working on boxes for Mark and a bunch of other people. I just set them up on an empty countertop and work on them until they ring, and then I know there's enough stuff, and then that box gets sealed and it gets sent off. And Mark isn't due for a box yet, so this will probably be in his next one. I looked everywhere for a second copy of this and didn't see it. You don't see these cross sections. People don't give them up. This is Dorian Kindersley. DK did cross section books for a whole bunch of stuff, and I used to have a bunch of them, but don't have any of them anymore. Now I have this one, but this is just too neat. This is just too neat, especially since thanks to Mark, I am rereading the Patrick O'Brian Aubrey and Maturin novels. So I'm living in these ships every day. so there you go. That was my Brattle trip. We have a cutaway section, a cross-section examination of a man of war. We have a perfunctory history of Rome that has an enthusiastic reader's clippings in it. That was worth the price of admission right there. We have the authorized biography of Lawrence of Arabia, one of the only mythic characters of the 20th century. We have Weimar Germany, a great history of a snapshot of Weimar Germany. We have an illustrated version of The Great War in Modern Memory by Paul Fussell. We have The War That Ended Peace by the great Margaret Macmillan. We have Passchendaele, a study of one of the worst battles of World War I. We have Pearl Harbor, The Verdict of History. Oh, God, we're running out of camera space here. By the guy who wrote At Dawn We Slept. We have Wilkes on Trial. Never thought I'd see this thing again. And finally, we have Bloody Murder by Julian Simmons. His writings on the mystery genre that I wish they were the tip of the iceberg. I know they're not in this case, because this person, whoever sold all these things, wanted murder mystery stuff. Mostly fiction, a tiny bit of nonfiction, but that's it. They didn't want anything else. So this wasn't a Julian Simmons collector. And that's a shame, because what I wouldn't give. Julian Simmons has probably 2, 3, maybe even 4 collections of his copious criticism, his copious reviews and essays. I've never had a single one of those volumes in my hand. I would love to have them all, because he's such a great writer, as you heard from that excerpt. Even if I disagree with him, I would love to have his collections of reviews, even though my bookcase for collected reviews is now very much a model of Passchendaele. So it very much looks like the devastation of a mud-soaked, devastated no man's land. But anyway, that was my trip to the Brattle, and I would suspect that I will be back to the Brattle this week again. I have a suspicion that will be true, and if so, you'll be the first to know. Thank you, too.